All right. What's new? We'll start off at the start. If everybody remembers, about a year, maybe year and a half ago, something like that, we put in the "What's New" articles, the little uh, advertisement here for all of the new features. So these are primarily what we'll cover in this session. Want to give you a little demo, maybe a little more direction, and some maybe more language around some of these features. When you do a service pack install, every single time we're going to pop this little article up. You can click through it. It gives you a quick idea of some of the things that we've added. And then we've also got this constant link to install biotabs and dashboards. Occasionally, we'll put some links in these articles to documentation or something else if it's pertinent. You can click through and see these guys. If you do want to close this and not see it every single time you open, check the checkbox that says "Do not show this again," and then you can close this window, and it won't show again until the next service pack update. If you close this, if you do that, and you want to get back to that window just as a reminder, you can always go to the help menu and you can go to the what's new for 202601, or if you're in 2502 or next service pack 2602, you can click on that and it brings that little pop-up back up. So if you don't see this window every single time you log in, that's one of the reasons you might not see it, is because you've checked this checkbox and closed this window. Or the other option is you're logged in as the Andar administrator. And if you're logged in as the Andar administrator, you won't even see this in the menu up here for what's new. We didn't put it in for the Andar admins. We only put it in for if you're logged in as you. And just to point out, down in the bottom left corner, you can see username. It says Nate S for me. I'll show you what it looks like on the Andar admin after here in a few seconds. But if you don't, that's one of the common questions we get, is they don't even see this in the menu. If you don't see that, you're probably logged in as the Andar admin. So log in as yourself to see this what's new feature. Okay, so I'm going to close this. I'm going to get back into my admin side in case we need to look at any system preferences or anything. And you'll notice down here it says username Andar in the bottom left corner. So that's where you won't even see that in the menu. So the what's new feature isn't available for the Andar admin user. Okay, so let's dive into some of these new features. I'm going to use the little article on the left hand side as kind of my outline. These are kind of the text from our what's new articles. The first one here is I attend. So huge shout out to Greater Twin Cities United Way in Minneapolis. We worked with them. They came to us with a little bit of a challenge that they do on their volunteer side, and they use I attend and event management for a pretty large volunteer event that they do. So they have, instead of doing e-volunteer and all of that kind of stuff, they use I attend for, it's a free volunteer opportunity where people can go to different stations at this big volunteer opportunity. And they wanted to allow people to choose which station that they would go to through I attend. So that was a pretty niche piece, but we were able to really turn that very specific ask into something that was super useful to them, but also useful to all of you guys for I attend usage as well. So pretty happy with this. I hopefully once they start using it, they'll be pretty happy with it too. But let's take a look at it. So what it does is it allows you to use I attend and allow your users to choose the placements at an event. So the way I kind of work this out in my head is, when I was at my United Way, we had this big thank you event, and we would have tables, table 1 through 20 or 30 or 40 or whatever it was, and we had this big seating chart that we would put up at the event. At the time, we didn't allow people to pick their own. We kind of made the assignments for them, but that's exactly what this enhancement does. Is it allows people through the web to actually pick their own placements. So let's get that screen back up. So I'm just pulling up um, an event occurrence. And I'm just going to skip over once this finishes loading. We'll skip over the top. The top is just an article that describes the event, and you can make it as pretty and look as nice as you want. And we'll get right down into the UI of it. I was telling the guys earlier, my computer is being very temperamental today, so I apologize for. Like I said, the top is just an article. You can make it look as pretty as you want. Nothing up top changes for this enhancement. But what this enhancement does do is once you choose one of your fees on this table, it'll then allow a user to pick the placement. So if I'm going to buy a VIP ticket, I now get this new drop down here. So this new drop down has the placement column, and then it tells me which tables I can go to. So that's all set up in the back end. We'll take a look at that just in a second here. But the idea behind a VIP table is you get maybe a better table closer to the buffet, closer to the stage, whatever. So you can pick out of all of the tables, you can pick which ones you want. So I might choose VIP table one, and it actually shows me how many tickets are remaining. So let's do, just to show you another feature that they asked for. We're buying 2 VIP tickets. It tells me right up front that there are 15 available total. So I want to sit at VIP table one, and the guest I'm bringing, I also want to go to VIP table one. And you'll see I chose VIP table one for myself, and it automatically subtracts that from how many are remaining. So if I choose another one, it's now 3 remaining. So, I could come up here and say, we're going to bring one more person. And now I have VIP table one only has 3 remaining. When that runs out, so there are 0 seats left at that table. If they try and click the submit button, it's going to go through and it's going to validate and say, nah, sorry, we only have 5 seats at this table. You've chosen 6 seats at table one. You're going to have to do something to fix that. So it counts the remaining seats that are available at that table, and notifies the user that they have to make a change. So it's pretty good. Again, it applies to a lot, right? So the way that works in the back end is it kind of looks simple on the front end, but on the back end, if we open up my event, so this is the event that I was just showing you. There's your standard fee button, and we added a placement button here. So placements have always existed in Andar, but it was just a free text field. So what we did is we converted that free text field into a table. And this placements button will open up your placement maintenance. And here's where you go and add all of the different tables. So when I did the drop down, you could see VIP table 1, 2, 3, and then normal tables 1 through 10. And I also have a general admission in there. So these are all the placements. Just like with fees, you can set how many limits and how many remaining are there. So if I open this guy up, call it whatever you want, you give a description, and you can say there are only 5 of these. So in this case, there are only 5 tickets available at table one. Whereas if we look at table 4, for example, we're going to cram you in a little bit more. You get 8 people at a table. So you can set how many seats are at each one of these tables or tickets or whatever you want to do. So this is the placement piece, how many places at the table that you have for this. Once you set up your placements, you then go into your fees. And if you've been setting up I attend events, you probably are familiar with fees. Fees are like the cost of a ticket. So I want to buy a whole table, and it's going to cost me $250. And that gives me 5 tickets, right? So that's a fee. Within this fee, you can actually assign what tables, what placements are associated with that. So for VIP, we're saying, any normal table plus the VIP tables. But for a normal ticket, let's look at this one. We're just saying these are the normal tables. Like when I go and choose in the user interface on the I attend page, you can't, if I chose a normal ticket or a single ticket, I couldn't choose VIP table 1, 2, and 3. So it's kind of a good way that you can encourage people to do early bird. Maybe you give them uh, priority access to a table. The VIP side of things, if you want to push a VIP table or a VIP ticket, you can build in some, hey, you're going to be closer to the stage, you're going to be closer to whatever. You can build in a little bit of priority for that. So show them what they're getting out of that VIP admission. So pretty cool. It's pretty straightforward. I think once you set one of these up the first time, it's going to be pretty straightforward to work through. It's not adding a whole lot to what iAttend already has as far as setup. It's optional, so you don't have to go through and do this. But it's also available for free events. So I've been talking about all of these fees. You can do this with a free event as well, and that was kind of the use case for Twin Cities is they have one fee. They want to have one fee, but then allow people to choose within that one free fee what station they're going to. So they would use this placements as their stations. So it's available for free or non-free. Is that the right way to say it? It's available for or priced or non-priced events through iAttend. Okay, so that was a fun one. That was again. Let's see. There are a couple of project numbers here, and we should have some documentation out for this. But if you're curious, there are a couple of project numbers. If you're interested, we can send you those over, and you can look over those projects and see some of the outcomes if you'd like. So that was a nice one. So again, huge shout out to Greater Twin Cities. That was a fun one to work on and challenging, and I'm glad we got to work on it. So BioTab apps. We haven't put out a ton of BioTab apps recently, and there are a couple ones that we kind of looked at and said, "Oh, this would be really useful if we could have this." So the first one's a pretty straightforward one. It's a pretty easy one to demo too, but it also uncovers some functionality that maybe you didn't even know Andar had. So this one is all about correspondence preferences. So a correspondence preference is all about how does that person want to be interacted with. Maybe you've got to work in a personal email, but a person says, "Hey, you can have both of my email addresses, but I'd prefer you to email me at my work email address." If a donor tells you that, you can go into Andar and you can put on their account a correspondence preference that does exactly that. So if you're not familiar with correspondence preferences, there's a bunch of different ways you can add it. I'm just going to show you the tab and sub-tab here. Oops, bad click. Correspondence preferences under the contact info, correspondence preferences. So in this case, maybe Nate calls you and says, "Hey, you can have both my emails, but I prefer to be contacted at my work email." So the setting is there, but often that gets lost in the shuffle. If you're not familiar with adding correspondence preferences, or you've added a correspondence preference and maybe your coworkers don't know about that, it kind of gets hidden there. So what we did is this was, I think, also a request from Twin Cities. I can't remember. Somebody requested this, and I thought it was a really good idea. We put on this contact information anywhere where there is a pecking order in a BioTab app. So this is just a contact information BioTab app. Anywhere where there is a correspondence preference, let's highlight it. So for me, I have a correspondence preference on my phone number and my address, and there's that email that I was just talking about. So it's highlighting this and it's showing me both my work and my personal email address in this app. But I've got this little star next to the one that is my correspondence preference to say Nate prefers to be emailed here. So if you're just working from a bio tab, you know without doing any other digging, Nate prefers to be emailed at his work email rather than his personal email. So you can display both and see which one they prefer. So any correspondence preference that you have set up, anywhere where there is a pecking order that displays on a bio tab, specifically this contact information app, it's going to put a little star next to it if it is a contact preference. And if you hover over it, it'll even tell you what that correspondence preference is. And it might be small on your screen, but this says general preferred. So it's actually telling me this is the general preferred correspondence preference. So no need to dig any further. We're showing you that this donor, this person prefers their work email over their personal. That was a pretty cool one. That was, again, also pretty straightforward and easy and nice to show. uncovers some, hopefully some hidden features that you guys may or may not be using, but let's make it a little more visible for everybody to see. Another BioTab app is this pledge versus payments BioTab app. We've had a pledge versus payment dashboard app that shows kind of overall campaign information, but now we've got the pledge versus payment on an organization account. So what does that look like? If we go into our American Bearings account here, this pledge versus receivable chart, that's the actual name of the dashboard app. This shows us the total of pledges over the course of the last, I think, 12 months. I think that's the way this is set up. So the green line is pledges. So you can see when's the busy time? When do you collect pledges? In this case, I collect a bunch in March, a little bit in May, $5,000, and then late the next day I collected $20,000. So you can see the flow of pledges to know when the busy time is for your pledge processing. And then there's a red line here that shows when the payments come in. Typically, pledges and payments come in at different times. You might get some, like a large corporate check that comes in all at once. But if you're billing people quarterly or monthly, you can kind of see when the company typically pays those pledges. So two different lines to show you throughout the course of the year what the trend is for your pledges and your payments. And this can be added to any organization account, as well as like campaign wide. The dashboard app would be the campaign wide one. The BioTab app would be the by company one. So again, trying to show some maybe some hidden trends so that you can help prepare for important busy seasons that you might not have data to back up. Okay, so that one's a good one. There's not a whole lot as far as settings in this one. It's really just the campaign year, campaign types. So if you want to restrict this to a specific campaign, your local campaign or out of area, or all, or if you want to say, I only care about employees or corporate gifts or whatever. So you can make the standard campaign configurations on this one as well. Okay. Next one is another kind of neat, easy to describe BioTab app for organizations. It's the Visualize Your Corporate Engagement. So this one is all about pulling up the number of donors for an organization. So we've had the number of donors overall kind of for your DB2 reports, but this one's very specific to an organization. So if we just go back into American Bearings again, I've got another chart down below, and it's this guy, the purple one, number of donors history chart. So without having to do a data mining operation and export it into Excel or use an extract table report or anything like that, let's just show you the trend of your donors for this particular organization over X number of years. You get to choose how many years. So you can kind of gather a trend. This company in particular looks pretty steady. They have a pretty steady number of donors over the last 5 years or so. But if you can see a drop in the number of donors, it's a more visual way to look at this rather than seeing table data, or again pulling out a data mining operation into Excel or creating an Executive Plus query or something like that. So let's just show you some of those trend line data, some of that trend line data right up front without having to do any extra work. Simple stuff, but I think it helps you get a better understanding of what this company is and what it's like if you're a campaign person or a finance person or whatever. That was a pretty easy one. And then we've also got this company level churn. So again, we've had the churn stuff around for a little while on the main dashboards. So overall campaign churn, we kind of copied that into organizations. So we'll jump back to my American Bearings BioTab, and you can see I've got a churn history here chart. So you can see for American Bearings how their flat donors have gone. In this example, 2025 is my current year, so everything kind of starts at 0 for that. But you can see my flat donors are pretty stable. I've got a pretty stable base of donors here for American Bearings. My decrease has gone through a few ups and downs, My increase had a big bump in 2023, and then it has slowly receded. So maybe I want to find out what I did differently in 2023 with American Bearings to get their new donors or their increased donors to go back up. New donors has been pretty flat, and my lapsed donors has been going up. So just by looking at this one chart, I can kind of identify, hey, there are some techniques here with this company that I could be implying that maybe or applying that maybe will turn some of this churn data around. So again, showing that trend line data has been a big focus for what we're trying to do here. And then, of course, with the other churn stuff, data cards have a churn aspect as well. So instead of seeing the graph, if you just want to focus on one number, like the number of new donors, the number of increased donors, those are data cards. And data cards are relatively simple. It's the data card app. So up here in the top, it just has data card app. And then down below, you just choose what the data card is that you want. And there's a number of these. You can explore what some of these are: total pledge, total received, number of donors. Those are not churn based, but those are biotab for organizations. You can use those guys as well. To make them look pretty, you can apply a style sheet. And if you want to change what the default text is on the label, you can do that right here. And then, of course, you've got your standard options, just like we talked about before, with campaign types and the campaign accounts that you can toggle around and choose different ones. Data cards have been around a while, but the churn aspect of that for the bio tabs for organizations those are what's new. Okay, so I think that's it for bio tabs. We've got a couple of dashboard apps. And again, the difference between bio tabs and dashboards: bio tabs show you account information for one specific account, whereas dashboards show you information for maybe multiple accounts, a global view of your campaign or your donor base. And in this case, it's actually showing us something that we used to have to run a report for. So if you've ever used Andar's surveys, there was a report called there is, I shouldn't say was, there is a report called the survey analysis report. And it's a really handy report. It takes all of the results from a survey and it gives you all of the results summarized on one report. We've converted that, instead of having to run that report on a regular basis, we've converted that into a dashboard app. So that's this guy right here. The nice part is, again, I have a test survey out there. It's got some really simple questions like, do you like hockey? Yes or no? How many games do you watch per year? What's your favorite team? All of that kind of stuff. So instead of having to run that report on a regular basis, whenever somebody submits a survey response, and as soon as you refresh this app or the dashboard, it's going to refresh all of the counts, the percentages, the total, average, min, and max. So without having to run any reports, I'm thinking when I was at one of my United Ways, we had an event that always asked for meal information. What kind of, do you want chicken, fish, beef, whatever? And I would always be running that report on a regular basis to update our caterer. So instead of having to run that report or schedule the report to be emailed to me, it would be kind of nice to have one dashboard app that I could just drop on it, so drop on my dashboard, so I can see what I need to update the caterer with right away. So it's instead of saving clicks, right? Instead of saving clicks, or instead of clicking 4 or 5 times to get to the report, run the report. Let's just put it on a dashboard and it shows you the data in real time. So saving clicks was the main piece of that. All right. This guy's a good one too, and it's a little bit of a when Avram was the developer that worked on this with me, we worked on there's another app that is very similar to this, and when Avram finished the similar app, which is like the birth date and the individual dates for an agenda app, I was like, this would be really cool if we could adapt this for events and volunteer opportunities as well. So that's what we did. So this is the constituent engagements in one place. There is now a dashboard app. The name of it is Events and Opportunity Calendar. So when you add this dashboard app to a dashboard, you can choose to show events or volunteer opportunities. So if you only have events and you only want to display events on this, you can. If you only want to display your volunteer opportunities, you can, or you can choose both. So in this case, I have both checked off. So I'm showing all of my events, like my ticketed events, and all of my volunteer opportunities on this app. The idea behind it was, again, at one of my United Ways, we had a calendar kind of in the break room that had listed all of the Women's Leadership Council and Young Leaders events and all of the volunteer opportunities that people were hosting and all of that kind of stuff. Board meetings, cabinet meetings. We had a big kind of org calendar, and this is to really replicate that feeling. So again, you've got some settings in here. You can restrict your volunteer opportunities if you don't want to show them all. You get a number of days that you want to see. So down here, I have it set to 120 days. And the result is this guy over here on the right-hand side. So you can see kind of that organization calendar. On Friday, we have, Friday the 13th. Neat. We've got a Women's Leadership Council event. And we've also got a cleanup downtown on Friday the 13th as well. So it's grouped under that heading. And then in April, we've got a board meeting and another Women's Leadership Council event that's got a speaker. Beth Marks is our speaker for that. Another board meeting in May. So it's just one spot where all of your events and your volunteer opportunities are gathered together in one spot. Also, kind of the neat part about this is, and it takes a little while in my environment just because I've got so much running. But when you click on one of these, it'll actually open up whatever that is. So I clicked on the Women's Leadership Council event. So it actually opened that event account. So I can see, whatever tab I want, the attendance tab or the occurrence tab or whatever. So you can set that tab as a default. And whenever you click on one of these, it opens up either the volunteer opportunity or event occurrence. So this is a volunteer opportunity, the cleanup downtown for Griffin Place. So it gives you a shortcut. You don't have to type in the Griffin Place or the cleanup downtown event. It's just a shortcut to open that up. So kind of I call it a water cooler app. It's designed to gather a whole bunch of information from 5 or 6 different tabs and subtabs. And you'll notice even like on the event opportunities here, it'll tell you how many volunteers have signed up and the maximum. Or if you've got a specific number of tickets, I think I have one of these. Yeah. Tickets sold. So this CN Tower Climb, it'll tell you how many tickets are sold to your event and the total number of tickets. So without, again, looking at anything else in Andar, you can see how's the progress of this volunteer opportunity or event going. So gathering a whole bunch of data all into one and then giving you some shortcuts. That was another fun one. I really like that. And again, it mimics the one that we did for your individuals. Individuals have one that looks at dates. So birth dates, anniversaries, things like that. So you can put both of these on one engagement dashboard if you want, however you want to do it. The most valuable philanthropists. Again, this was just another straightforward one to me. Let's just gather all of your leadership donors and list them. We used to do a book of leaders and we used to publish these lists. And really the only way that you can get that out was data mining. And it's a pretty simple data mining operation. But if you just want to have a living list of all of your leadership donors, you can add this top leaders dashboard app. There's not a whole lot to it. Number of leaders, I have it set to 1,000. I have it set to an old year just for better data. You can restrict it to a specific campaign account, and then you can say, I only want to see my toque leaders, or maybe I only want to see my silver leaders. And it only shows me my silver leaders. So it's just a way of reducing the need to create a data mining operation for this and put some of this pretty straightforward data in front of you. The nice part about this is the leadership levels. Again, this is one of those, if you're not using leadership levels, they are really, really handy. They have these things called overrides and combined gifts. So if you've got a household that has 2 or 3 siblings and they all do a combined gift and you want to list them all together, like the Smith household, you put in a combined gift relationship and it'll roll all three of their pledges up. So you can see the Smith family raised $5,000 or whatever. So I have this set to individual, but I could do combined or individual. And then if you want to do an override, which is, the classic example that I give is if there's somebody who owns a business and they write you a $20,000 check from their business account, but you want to count them as a leadership donor, even though, they're technically not giving you any personal money, it's a corporate gift. You can put an override on their account and you can count them as the leader, even though they're not actually giving you a penny out of their own personal bank account. So overrides are really handy there. That's all what, leadership levels do all of that for you. So if you're not using leadership levels, I'm trying to create some of these apps that encourage you to use some of this really useful functionality that will help you reduce the need to run and create all the custom data mining operations and reports. So leadership levels is really, really useful in that sense. So that's pretty straightforward on that one. It's just a list of all your top leaders, and it's a live living list. How much do your leaders drive your fundraising? So another really straightforward one, but if you want to know the total of your leadership gift, so we've got all kinds of data cards out there for total pledge, total received, and that's for everybody in the campaign. You can go and change a couple settings there and show different years and things like that. But one of the missing pieces that I think a lot of our customers are focusing on is their leadership giving. Leadership giving typically has been kind of steady. It's a lot of leadership dollars don't change. Maybe the leadership number of donors changes. So it's a pretty steady number. But if you want to work on your leadership giving, if you've got a Tocqueville department or a major individual giving department within your organization or a person, I know a lot of people just have a person that is focused on leadership giving. We wanted to show some high level stats for that. So we introduced a new data card, and it's this guy right in the middle of the screen, and it just says leadership gift. And all that is, again, it's a data card. So the app type is data card. The data card itself is called leadership gift. Apply your style sheet, change your year, and then you can again check. I want to see what all of my silver leadership donors have given, or maybe this is going to be bronze, silver, and gold leaderships. We get the same individual combined and overrides down below that we just saw. If I click update, that sums all of my gold, silver, and bronze leaders to show me that I have $810,000 raised last year by those leaders. So again, without having to run any reports, you can set this up and maybe I can change, maybe I have 3 of these data cards with different labels and I can say gold, silver, and bronze. So there's one data card, and then I can maybe have another one that says Tocqueville. So just again, kind of chunking that data, it's allowing you to parse it a little bit without having to go into Excel and do any of that kind of stuff. So really, the data cards are really great for using at the top of a dashboard to show high-level numbers. So let's give you some easy ways that you don't have to write data mining operations or custom SQL code to kind of group some of that data for these dashboards. Let's see, this guy. So we have a campaign history app. Let's see. Whoops, clicked on the wrong screen. Sorry. So we've created a campaign history chart. And again, this is a dashboard app. And the idea behind this was, oddly enough, we didn't have just a history chart for your entire campaign. So for example, if you wanted to see over the past 10 years, how has our campaign varied up or down? We didn't have, you could data mine that and pull that into a data mining operation pretty easily, but we didn't have anything that graphically represented that. So that seemed like a no-brainer to create. If you want to create kind of a history dashboard with historical numbers over the years, this is a really good start to that. So in this case, you can see, 2016, 17, a little drop. But then we got in 2021, we tripled what this campaign was bringing. So it just shows at a high level, again, without having to pull into Excel, what's our campaign looked like over the past X amount of years. Standard campaign app settings in here. You can restrict it by all campaigns. a specific campaign. So if I only want to see my local campaign, or maybe I want to do this for my out of area campaign or a capital campaign. So if you're using different campaign accounts, you can select that. If you want to see just your rum dollars or your non-rum dollars, you can do this for either one. Um, and then if you want to limit this down to just employee or individual. So again, if you just want to see those workplace campaigns dollars, how has that compared? You can have maybe two or three versions of this app on one dashboard, one for employee, one for individual, and one for corporate, for example. So it allows you a little bit of flexibility, again, to create a dashboard that has some visual aspects that you don't have to get from Excel or writing custom SQL queries. So to me, it was a pretty no-brainer. It was a pretty standard one. I was surprised that we didn't have this or nobody had asked for this before. But I think it's a really good tool to visualize over time how has your campaign done. I think about the board meetings that I used to sit through, and if we would have had a dashboard like this to present to our board with data coming directly out of Andar for some of this high level stuff that's pretty easy to get, it would have saved me or my boss at the time a little bit of time in creating all these custom reports. So that was kind of the idea behind some of this stuff. Okay, so that's it for dashboard apps. The next one I'm pretty excited about because I think it might lead to some pretty cool stuff down the road. We introduced the dashboard installer, which I briefly touched on at the top of the webinar here. We've replicated that into other things. So if you're not familiar, you can install a dashboard. We've got a ton. I'll just show you that really quickly. So in the Bio tab and dashboard maintenance screen, there's an install from Andar button down here. So if I click this, we've got a whole library of bio tabs and dashboards that you can just install directly from our support center. You used to have to go and download them and import them, and it was a couple of extra steps that you didn't need to take. So you can click on one of these guys and just hit the install button, and it's now in your system. So we've had this for a little while now. I think it's a really useful tool. Hopefully, you guys do too. If you're not familiar with it or have questions, shoot us an email. We're happy to walk you through it. But it shows all of the dashboards that we've created that you can then customize however you want. We've taken that idea and we've expanded it a little. And this is going to be a little for maybe the more advanced users who are familiar with style sheets, Executive Plus apps, and things like that. But I think it's useful to show. I'll start with Executive Plus. So if you are an Executive Plus Executive Plus owner of that module, you may be familiar with what Executive Plus does. And if you're not, this is a good opportunity to learn. Executive Plus is very techy. You have to write SQL code. So I know that doesn't apply to a lot of people. But the cool part is we can now we've had a library of Executive Plus apps that you can just download. Again, it was hidden. It was hard to find. But we have that same install from Andar button here. So Executive Plus allows you to create custom SQL queries for charting, for custom reports. You can create custom components to go into email templates or on the web if you want to do a custom query that looks at a whole lot of data and gives a single result back on a web page or something like that. Executive Plus is kind of the catch-all tool. It allows you to do whatever you want with any custom coding. But if you're not using it and don't know what it's for, we've put some examples in here. So I'm just going to click the install from Andar button again. And you can see we've got a small library of some generic Executive Plus queries that you can go and install. The new ones that I just added are examples for all of our charts. So when I was at one of my United Ways, I'm not a native coder. I don't write code very well, but I learned some SQL. And what I realized is I can modify SQL a lot better than write it from the ground up, especially when you're first learning. That was kind of how I learned. So what I thought would be useful is if we put all of these charts out here, you can just install one of these, see how it's done, and maybe modifying it makes sense at that point. So it gives you a starting point. That's one of the themes I'm kind of going after is paint by numbers versus blank canvas. So if we can give you a paint by numbers on what an Executive Plus query looks like, and you're somewhat familiar with it, but not great at writing SQL, maybe if we give you a starting point, that gives you an idea of I can just go in and change my campaign account number and it works for me or whatever. So just some examples here. We've also got some other ones like all verbal dollars. There's an app here that I used to use when I was at one of my United Ways to look at how often people at my organization were logging in. So if you're in charge of looking at that kind of on the IT side, you can see when the last time somebody logged in was. There's all kinds of stuff in here. Designation breakouts for like letters and things like that. There's some comparison apps that I used to use when I was at one of my United Ways to compare different organizations to like organizations, banks, things like that. So there's a bunch of stuff. We put a quick description in there, and you can just click the install button. It pulls the SQL coding over into your environment, and you can play with it. Quick word of caution with that, though. It may not work exactly as intended because there might be a type in here. For example, email address. Maybe we put email address in here and we're using a type of personal, and you've obsoleted personal and you have personal one, for example. It might not work exactly the way that your database is set up. But again, the whole idea here was to give you a paint by numbers and something to start working with. So this is kind of custom code world anyway, but just wanted to throw that out there. That's Executive Plus, and we did the exact same thing with style sheets and JavaScript items. So again, for those folks who are a little more techy or used to knowing what style sheets do, we've got this style sheet web and JavaScript library where we have an install from Andar button. And this one shows all of the different style sheets that we have across and JavaScript items across the database. So for example, we have a newsletter template out there. If you didn't know you can send newsletters out of Andar, you can. But we've provided these templates that are, this one in particular is on brand for United Way Worldwide. We've got CEO call reports that are branded to match United Way Worldwide. So I made sure that those were up at the top. Those are the newest ones. And then as you go through, you can see there are different, this is a style sheet for an Executive Plus. So if you want to create an Executive Plus that we just talked about and then style it to look like a data card, here's a style sheet that you can import and just turn on and let your Executive Plus look like a data card. We've got different ones for email templates. We've got profile reports for landscape and portrait. So all of these apply to different things in Andar, but let's make it easy for you to get these see these style sheets and then get them if it's something that you like. So hopefully this helps. It again provides a little bit of a description on what the style sheet is used for, and then you've got this install button that'll just grab it and throw it into your environment for you. Okay, so that is, and that's those lists, the Executive Plus, the dashboards, bio tabs, Executive Plus, and style sheet libraries. We'll continue to populate those with things that come up. If there's a new style sheet, we'll just add it in and you'll have access to it. The great part about these, if we come up with something between our service packs, you'll still be able to go in there and get it. So it doesn't require a service pack install for you to be able to see some of these apps. So if there's something that we create that we think would be useful, we can drop it right into our libraries, our Executive Plus, style sheet, or dashboard library, and then maybe send a mass email out and say, hey, check out this brand new dashboard that we released. So it doesn't require a service pack install to get the newest, latest, and greatest there. The last little bit, I'm far from a security expert. I'm far from a super technical expert. So forgive me for not going into a lot of detail. I have kind of an assumption that a lot of folks on the call are not necessarily in the weeds in security either. So hopefully the way I describe these, it'll make sense. There's not a whole lot to show on some of these, but I think security is one of those things that we've always been working on, and it's kind of the background process that always is being improved, but it doesn't get highlighted very often. So I think it's a good idea to highlight some of the things that we are doing to make sure that security is always on our mind. So the first piece is we've changed our encryption. So I don't know, it went from, I think, DE3 or something like that to AES. I'm not going to even attempt to understand the difference between the two. It's beyond my level. But the idea is that AES is a much more modern and strict encryption method for your data. It's what governments and banks tend to use. So we have included that in the 2026-01 service pack. So encryption is stronger for your database. Again, sorry for leaving it at the high level, but I don't understand the details. It's, like I said, beyond my pay grade. The next one is modernized authentication and data privacy. And the idea here is we're looking at some of the old things that used to be okay that aren't okay anymore. And the best example I can give you here is you used to be able to send out a URL in an email, and it would have your base URL, and then it would have a bunch of stuff, and it said user ID equals XXXX, whatever your user ID was, and a password equals XXXX. That was a long time ago. It was okay. People weren't using that. They weren't looking at the URLs and stealing those to get data. That's been a bad practice for a while now. So we've removed that functionality. You can still send encrypted URLs out if you choose to. They can click on it and automatically log them in. That's still okay. Still have to be careful with that, but we're not exposing any of that information. We're not exposing the word user ID. We don't want them to know that the user ID is embedded. We don't want them to know that the password is embedded. So that the functionality that used to be okay, we've pulled out just to make sure nobody accidentally sends out a URL that has user ID equals and password equals. So that's gone. You can still do encrypted URLs. That's perfectly fine. But we're going back and kind of deprecating some of those features that used to be okay. This one's a new piece, especially for Fiserv, but I had to look the project up. But ultimately, what this is, if somebody, and I've experienced this in other software as well, if you plug in a credit card number and it fails a couple of times, we're going to lock you out. So you can always go and unlock the donor at that point. But if they're going to go in and fail it multiple times, bot attacks are famous for this. They'll go and try a credit card number 4 or 5 times with a different CVN on the verification number, verification number, whatever it is. If it fails multiple times, we're just going to lock you out and say, sorry, you're not allowed to use this credit card until you reset, contact somebody at the fundraiser, you guys, and reset. So there's actually a web option for that. It is the CyberSource Fiserv web option. And when we look at it, make this a little smaller. I don't need the full window. We've got the number of checkout attempts allowed. So you can set that to, 2, 3, 5, whatever it is, just to give them enough opportunity to enter in maybe, a typo or whatever, allow them some errors. And then there's also, this is I think the new piece, especially for Fiserv. This one is this log out and disable users. So it's going to say, hey, you've attempted too many payment transaction tries. Not only does it kick you out of the system at that point, but it also disables your user ID. Again, you can always go and re-enable that if it is a legit person who needs to come back and log in and be able to do whatever they are trying to do. You can always go in and re-enable it, but it's going to kick them out of the system. It's going to log them out, and it's going to disable that user. This is the new part of that. I think it was a piece of that was added for Fiserv as well as CyberSource. So a little stricter on those trial and error bots that everybody's been encountering. Okay. These last two, there's nothing to show. It's within the coding itself, so there are no settings or anything like that. But this one, hardened session validation, really what this is, and hopefully I'm doing it justice, describing it in non-techie terms, is it's making sure that your single page reg and pledge, any of those pages that can be that has a payment piece to it, making sure that the bot doesn't go directly to those payment pages to test credit card numbers. So we're tracking kind of breadcrumbs in a sense, And if it doesn't go through the normal channel, if it doesn't go through the single page reg and pledge and then the payment page, it's gonna not allow anything to happen. So it's really behind the scenes, but it's making sure that everything is going through a transaction is going through the proper channels and not just finding your payment page and hitting that payment page 100 times. So if it doesn't go through the proper channel, it's going to not allow that to happen. So happens in the background. It's not anything you need to worry about or control or anything like that. But it really is to really uh, try and find all of those bots and prevent them from even getting to the payment page, making sure it goes through the kind of the correct funnel before it gets to the payment page. And then the last piece, this is one that I, again, kind of understand at a high level, but all of the pages, single page reg and pledge, all of those pages that bots tend to hit, we want to make sure that they're not indexed by search engines. So Google has an ability to crawl web pages. And if it's a public web page, it's generally crawlable unless you make it non indexed. So we're making sure that all of those payment pages that have payment information, those are non-indexed. So bots aren't able to find all of those pages and then just change maybe a URL variable in there and go to another page. So it's just a security thing. It's not going to affect people being able to find your giving pages. It's just making sure that bots aren't able to find those guys through Google searches and those web crawls. So again, lots of security stuff happening, lots of more detail. If you're curious about the detail on any of that, shoot me a message. I can get you to the right person. I'm sure I didn't do justice to all of those, but I wanted to at least point out that we've got a lot of security pieces that we've been working on, and wanted to make sure that we highlight those to show you we hear you. We're trying to stay on top of bots just like everybody else is, and making sure that your data is safe and everything, because it's important to us too.